Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. Hello, I'm your host Stefan Burns. Today we are talking 3I Atlas because this is probably one of the biggest updates I have to make yet on this interstellar object. It has suddenly begun erupting jets of plasma. So now it has either multiple tails or multiple jets of gas, dust, and plasma being emitted from it. This is based off of a brand new observation made today, November 8th, early in the morning. That's when you observe 3I Atlas right now because it just is perihelion with the sun. So it's very close to the sun. It's in the night sky just before sunrise, and then the sun rises and they all move up like this. And now it becomes too bright to see 3I Atlas during the day. So it was observed by Michael Yeager with either multiple tails and or jets of plasma, and this tells us quite a few things. In addition to that, as I reported just a couple days ago, C2025 V1 Borisov, the new comet that was picked up just about like November 2nd, November 3rd, somewhere in there, that was situated directly in between 3I Atlas and the Earth, it appears to have disintegrated. So it's basically disappeared. It was only observed for a few days before poof, it's gone. So very bizarre that it was found in between 3I Atlas and Earth. Its orbital trajectory was calculated to be quite a bit different and not headed to Earth. This is the orbital trajectory of Borisov that was calculated for it to go up. Its perihelion being on the 8th of November, which is today. And well, on perihelion, poof, it's gone. 3I Atlas, meanwhile, did perihelion on the 29th of October, and now after being hit with all this solar wind and radiation and solar storm impacts, it seems to finally have awakened and begun its final activation, where now it's spewing out jets and tails and everything. So it's not just one tail, and it's certainly not a super epic, magnificent tail like A6 Lemon, the comet that has its perihelion also today, November 8th. Actually, Borisov, sorry, its perihelion was calculated to be like I think it was like the 16th of November. It's A6 Lemon that has its perihelion today. But 3I Atlas is finally now producing some sort of tail. So that's what we're going to talk about today's video. We'll do a Q&A and more. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Stefan Burns. Geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, cosmic bro, whatever. I'm here to track what is happening energetically on Earth in our solar system. So we look at everything, earthquakes, volcanic activity. We also examine solar activity, space weather. We're in solar maximum right now. One reason why there's been so much energy being broadcast out is because the sun is in the middle of its magnetic flip. This happens once every 11 to 12 years. And quite coincidentally, it launched a ton of solar storms towards 3I Atlas. We were forecasting that back in July. It did happen starting October 21st. We'll look at that imagery. And then we also examine comets and interstellar forces and more. So if you like the sound of that, then please subscribe. Hello and welcome. Happy Saturday. Okay, so let's look right at this imagery right off the get-go. Here we have our latest imagery of 3I Atlas as provided by Michael Yeager. This is linked in the video description. He posted this on Twitter. So if you want to check this out yourself, you can. Originally, I was going to apply some image correction to this, like make it pop out a little bit more, but I decided not to. I decided just to post exactly as he did. So he posted two different versions. This one has had some image correction done to it to make it pop a bit more. We see the solar direction, okay? So sun is over here and 3I Atlas is going like this, okay? It's going like that. And we see not one, not two, but five, at least this is what Yeager identified, 5 different jets coming off of it. One tiny one right there, very faint one right there, but these 3 are more obvious. 1, 2, 3. So that's quite striking. You also see it on this imagery. And here, in some aspects, it's even easier to see. That forward jet, you definitely see that nicely. Here we see that top one. And then this one, I mean, even maybe you can split it kind of into a fractal dendritic nature going like this. This is the coma. It's not the nucleus. We're not going to be able to see the nucleus, the actual object or whatever this thing is, until you can get close enough to kind of pierce through that coma, because it will absorb a lot of light. And so it's just, we're going to see that diffuse cloud of gas and plasma more. but we're not going to see the comet itself. We don't really know the size. So we're going to talk about 3i Atlas, and also I'm going to muse a little bit about just kind of, consciousness and more as it relates to this thing, because I don't think it's aliens. I also think it's not just some inert space rock or comet. I think there's a lot more to the universe than mainstream science has, taught a lot of people, and that there is a lot of consciousness with this thing. And now it seems to be activating, because we've been watching it, talk about it, and say, hey, there's no tail, there's no activity, it got hit with all these solar storms, like what's happening? I mean, it got hit with a ton of solar energy. The solar wind, the light radiation, and all these like solar storms, which some of which are all combined together. It's like one of the most active periods of solar activity in decades. Didn't seem to do anything, because we also do have imagery of 3i Atlas from its pre-perihelion stage. This is taken by the CCOR1 coronagraph. We have stacked images here. Then we also have stereo A stacked images, and this goes back to September, going through October, and this is October 18th to 24th, highest resolution. You don't really see a tail on this thing. I mean, you see definitely a coma and maybe a little bit more pushed out there. At this time, that's the sunward direction. Now, you also have to keep in mind that there is a tail. It's going to be in front of 3i Atlas like this, because we're looking at it effectively head on. It's going to be behind 3i Atlas because the sun is in front, and so it would stretch out directly behind it. So that makes it hard to see the tail. But, it's definitely some sort of shapeshifter in terms of what it's doing. It's not consistent in its behavior, which is quite bizarre. I think that's one reason why so many people find 3i Atlas so fascinating. So if we go back here, we see these different jets, and we're going to talk about the plasma environment a little bit of comets too, because there is a very rich energetic environment around comets, or just any sort of object that is off-gassing. That's the key. And this latest data is suggesting that 3i Atlas is more porous than we perhaps originally thought, and maybe it's finally receiving some deep heating from the sun. Like maybe it took a little bit of time, but that deep heating is occurring now. That's causing volatilization of gas, which then transports dust with it as well, because it's hypersonic. It's moving at extreme speeds to then form this coma, which then, as it starts to interact with solar radiation, which is photoionization, a light photon hits a particle and splits off the electron. We have that happen here on Earth, other planets everywhere, right? This is just physics. And then also you have charge ionization due to the solar wind, and you also just have general ionization due to free electrons that are already bouncing around, that are highly energized, that then also create new additional ions through interactions. So the moment this gas and dust expands out into the coma, it starts to ionize. You get this shock region here on the very close inside. Behind the comet is this neutral sheet, so that's neutral gas that does not have a charge. So it's not really interacting with the electromagnetic field. But you do have some cross-tail currents, some complex electromagnetic currents and kind of forces at play in the tail. This is anti-sunward. One of the weird things about 3i Atlas is that originally it was pushing out towards the sun with its coma. It had a sunward-facing tail, which is quite bizarre. Then you have this ionopause. Then you have a cometopause, where the magnetic field can get very, very strong. This magnetic barrier, typically around 50 nanotesla. Here it's labeled as gamma. That's equivalent. So 50 nanotesla. But what we picked up with other comets before, specifically the ESA mission, Rosetta, was orbiting around a comet for a while back in 2014. I think it was 2015, 2016, that zone right there. They noticed a solar storm impact with that comet, and the cometopause magnetic field went up to 300 nanotesla. Now, that was one solar storm impact. 3i Atlas received many solar storm impacts, and big ones. So we don't know how strong that magnetic field surrounding it got, but it definitely supercharged up. We just don't have direct in situ measurements, because we just weren't fast enough to get a probe launched to 3i Atlas, or to commandeer one of our other probes, Maven or Juno. Juno is out near Jupiter, so that would be later on. But then you have the solar wind, you have the bow shock here. Strong plasma waves can exist in this area. And you also have all the dust, the heavy dust of the comet or whatever this thing is, getting ionized as well, causing the overall solar wind to start to slow down and drag. Because it's very, very fast, especially a coronal mass ejection, 800 kilometers per second, 1,000 kilometers per second. Whereas this volatilizing out slows down pretty rapidly, especially once it ionizes and now is trapped in certain regimes under electromagnetic fields. Like for example, magnetic field will hold an ion in sometimes very specific areas. Example again, the ionopause, the commutopause, the bow shock here. Now because 3I Atlas seems to be volatilizing based off of this data, it's effectively spewing interstellar material all over our inner solar system. And here's the deal, we don't know where this thing is from. Whether it's from maybe a nearby star system. I talked a little bit before one of my videos about how it's really not that far off from Barnard's star, which is effectively also in Sagittarius, so it's a little bit above the ecliptic plane. 3I Atlas came in at 5 degrees, but traveling at the speed that it was originally, 58 kilometers per second or so, and Barnard's star being about 6 light years away, that's a travel time of 30,000 years. So it actually wouldn't take that long to come in from Barnard's star, but it could also be from a completely different galaxy. We're talking about interstellar, intergalactic, universal time now. So it could have been traveling through the universal medium for 1 billion years. 2 billion years. We don't know how old this thing is. Now, Earth is, we think 4.54 billion years old. The sun, all this, like it all formed roughly 4.5 billion years ago. That's our estimate based off of radiocarbon dating, okay? So, I mean, our system is old too, but the longer something's traveling just through like the universal medium, the more it's preserving those original characteristics that it had. Now, there is cosmic rays hitting it, but overall the flux rate's quite low. When it's out in the void of space, it's not changing that much. It's receiving a huge amount of energy now that's coming into our inner solar system, being heated up by our sun. So now it's spewing out this interstellar material, and we don't know what that's going to do for us here on Earth, for the rest of the solar system, the sun. It's very bizarre. We have quite a lot of observational evidence. For example, the best example I can give you is ice crystals and how water stores energy and information. The quantum dynamic properties of water. Water can form what are known as coherency domains. And so they are able to enter in these specific resonances. The different molecules in the hydrogen bonds can enter into these specific resonances and capture light photons even at wavelengths that are very low that they normally shouldn't be able to do. It's like Schumann resonance. And therefore, they're also able to capture and hold on to information. There's a lot of amazing work out there that's been done by a variety of people showing how water will hold on to energy and information. You water the plant, that was, that water is charged up with good energy. The plant like triples in growth, and then the water that you tell it like you hate, the plant basically dies. So there's these sort of experiments. There's also these flash freezing ice crystal experiments where you put a petri dish of ice over like a photo and you flash freeze it, and you'll see that photo represented in the crystal structure of the ice. Some people are even putting thoughts and intention into these petri dishes and seeing those things that they're visualizing in their mind appear in the ice. So water is absolutely crazy. It's super quantum. It is a portal into everything. We are made up of a ton of water. That's just one example of how a material or mass can hold on to unique energy and information. This thing's now spewing out a ton of this extragalactic material and energy into space, and it's going to spread out across the entire solar system because the solar wind is going to sweep it out. So that's like, we don't know the effect of that in terms of consciousness here on Earth, or maybe the entire consciousness of our solar system, one integrated unit, the sun, the planets, the asteroids, the comets, TNOs, and more. We have also the fact that Borisov has disintegrated. This is our first image right there. Then we see two more, and we see effectively it has disappeared. So it originally came in, some people were even mistaking it for 3I Atlas because it looked very similar, did not have a tail as far as we could tell. And it was also situated in such a way that we should have been able to tell whether it has a tail or not. I'll talk about that 3i Atlas next. But in the span of just a few days after detection, it has disappeared. And what was so interesting about Borisov is that it was picked up in between Earth and 3i Atlas. So that's the weird thing. We had its calculated trajectory based off of the measurements and observations of the astronomers showing it going like this. But at the time of observation, right, this is all calculated. That's all calculated. At the time of observation, we basically picked it up directly in between 3i Atlas and Earth. We saw it for a few days and then poof, it's gone. So that's pretty bizarre. Whether that actually was just, hey, it actually did come from in here, and then as it got close to its perihelion in mid-November, it did disintegrate, right? That's one explanation. The other one's a little bit more bizarre and calls into question a lot of things as it relates to the next few weeks on Earth. Because all of a sudden we get this thing popping up, it doesn't have a tail, and then it just poof, it's gone. Very bizarre. Now 3i Atlas, I want to show you the arrangement here, because it's difficult to see these jets or this tail, whatever these things are, from the angle that we're at. So this is a pretty incomplete view of what we're looking at. So here we see the Earth, and we see 3i Atlas, and we see the sun, okay? You'll notice that this is still pretty much behind the sun. It's not perfect. We are seeing it now slightly at an angle, but in general, it's not a big deviation from 180 degrees like it was back on the 21st. If you go back to the 21st of October, let's do that, just really show you. Here we have the 21st of October. If there was a tail of 3i Atlas, it would be directly behind 3i Atlas, being pushed out behind, because the sun is pushing energy this way, so we wouldn't really see it, okay? Or if there was a sunward-facing tail like we observed back in August and July, really July, then we also wouldn't see that. But now if we go forward again back to today, November 8th, we see that we're still pretty much aligned with that. So it's only going to be slightly at an angle as viewed from Earth like this, right? A lot of it is going to be skewed behind 3i Atlas. So if you keep that in mind, we're just seeing that skewed angle. It's not exactly perfectly lateral to our perpendicular to our viewing angle. It's actually going out like this. And this also shows that nicely. So in the coming days and coming weeks and even months, we may find that 3i Atlas is actually more energetic than we originally thought it was going to be, and that it has a bigger tail than perhaps we thought it was going to have. Because we also have our database of apparent magnitude measurements for 3i Atlas, and we can see that right here. It's been a lot brighter than expected. So let me pull this up. Here we have our COBS data, and this shows the light curve of 3i Atlas. It was following effectively the light curve, dipped a little bit below it here September, went above it starting October. We have measurements of the light from 3i Atlas with CCOR1 and C3 and punch data from NASA. NASA has not yet released its high-rise imagery of 3i Atlas, but it's probably not going to be that great anyways, but they're not doing it. Here's our latest astronomical measurements of 3i Atlas from a variety of groups, okay? And we see that that is coming in at 9.4. and 9.4, 9.8. You know, the model is expecting it to be 11. It at 9.4, it's nearly, that'd be like nearly 5 times brighter, because each jump, one jump is 2.54 increase. So it's quite a bit brighter than expected, and that's one reason why I've been like, hey, where's that tail? Where's the tail? Like, it's very bizarre that it's much brighter than expected, but doesn't have an apparent tail. Now we're starting to see something, but it's actually not just one tail. Again, it's jets, like multiple, like this is, you can more accurately describe this, in my opinion, as jets than a tail, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perhaps more. Here we see our CCOR1 imagery from the 21st through early November for 3i Atlas's superior conjunction through perihelion. That was the first big solar storm that launched out. 3i Atlas is tracking right about here at this moment in time. You only pick up in a few frames. There's another solar storm. This is all launched to the far side of the sun, okay? So this is not Earth directed. 3i Atlas was on the far side. There's another solar storm. I mean, just watch this going all the way through from its exact alignment, Earth, Sun, 3i Atlas through its perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, which was not exactly behind the sun's view from Earth, but pretty close, we see a ton of solar storms launch out to the far side. All these are far side events because of the big sunspots, which are now Earth facing. In fact, the biggest one is in the Earth strike zone right now. So it's really quite striking. And this is going, as you can see, there's a few periods, like a day or two, where you don't really get much from the sun. You get some activity, but not like that first big one. We'll look at that one more time when we get to it. But we see it kind of resume again with the perihelion. There's some more activity. And so if we, I think it's getting close to the end here. Yeah. So we saw that 3i Atlas was here at the beginning, and then it moved across like this to the end. So at the very beginning of this video, it got some flank impacts from the side because they were mostly directed this way. The sunspots were rotating across the far side like that. Then it swung through as the sunspots rotated like this, and they kind of traded places, you could say. So here again, 3i Atlas is going to be right in here. And then we're going to see this big first explosion. See, it's more of a flank impact. And then as it goes through the 24th, it's going to be basically right here. And then it's going to continue on. Well, actually, the 21st is going to be right there. Let me go back in time. The 21st was the superior conjunction exactly. It was exactly in line on the 21st. Back on the 18th and 19th and 20th is when it was showing up here. Right there, 3i Atlas is like in this zone. And then it transited off by the 24th. So you see, again, all these things launching out effectively in the direction of 3i Atlas during this time frame. So that's one reason why it is energized so much. And now we're seeing this activity from 3i Atlas with these jets. And if we look at our model here, we can understand a little bit more of the plasma dynamics as I talked about. Keep in mind, there's some differences between a comet or like some small object or something like this and a planet. Because you could say, well, why don't we get, special effects? Like, how is it that a comet can do anything? It's too small. That's the whole reason why it can affect perhaps solar activity and affect the energetics of the solar system, is because it has such a low gravitational field. If it has all these highly volatile minerals and materials like CO2, CO, CN, water, those are the main elements and molecules that are picked up by spectroscopic imaging of 3i Atlas. If it has a lot of those, they will volatilize, and that rapid hypersonic transition from ice to gas will then carry with it a bunch of dust grains, and then they'll explode off the surface like this, and gravity won't hold them in place. Gravity is not going to pull them back down. On Earth has enough mass and size, it can hold on to its atmosphere. Venus has a super thick atmosphere. It can hold on to it. Mercury's smaller, the Moon's smaller. They don't really have atmospheres, right? The moment you start to get smaller, like dwarf planet Ceres or Pluto, you start to lose that atmosphere. Mars has atmospheres fairly thin, but it's a bit bigger than those. But, of course, Jupiter, mostly atmosphere. Saturn, mostly atmosphere. Uranus, Neptune, right? So as you get bigger, the more you can hold on to these gases that want to fly away and resist the force of gravity because they're so light, you need a bigger gravitational field to hold on to them. This thing has almost no gravity. So if you can get those ices and materials to volatilize, now all of a sudden you just have this expanding out, basically with gravity having almost no effect on it to pull it back down. That's how it then ionizes, and then you can get this exchange of energy and perhaps, with energy information between these sort of objects, comets, whatever, and let's say the sun. Because you can have this actually push out when it gets pushed in by a big solar storm impact. That ionization actually causes it to push out more, because there is this fact that now it's expanding with under electromagnetic forces. Again, gravity is not really holding it back. And then it can start to disperse and spread out in the solar wind. So it's really quite striking. So that is what's happening with 3i Atlas at this moment in time. It's much brighter than expected. It has now started spewing out multiple jets. And these could be tails, jets, we don't know, but there's some sort of dispersal of interstellar or extragalactic or whatever material just from a completely different system of unknown origin and unknown quality now being spread out in our inner solar system. And that's going to continue for a while because it's still close to the sun. We'll go back to our sky live. Here it is today again, right? It's still well within the orbit of Mars. It's going to take a while before it reaches Jupiter here. It's going to do a close flyby of Jupiter. That'll be interesting. That's mid-March. But we have quite a ways before it leaves the orbit of Mars. Let's actually check that out. It leaves the orbit of Mars roughly on the 23rd of November, and then it actually has its closest approach to Earth on the 19th of December. So this entire time zone right there is very dynamic, and there are other forces besides the solar wind that just push out. There's also inward flowing electric currents in our solar system that run along the ecliptic plane that could feasibly also pull things in, because it's inward flowing electric current, radial like this, going to the sun. So it's not just the solar wind going out, you also have this reciprocal force coming in, and perhaps that's going to carry some of these volatiles and dust and plasma from 3I Atlas closer in to our inner solar system. Then it starts to interact with the planets. How does that affect things? We don't know. I'll keep you up to date with that as best I can as we learn more, but those are some of the big findings right now. And the big thing that I'm thinking of as it relates to this is, how is this affecting our conscious experience? My personal experience, and I've said a few things around this, I'll say it again. There's different types of knowing. It's like you know something, but then there's the actual experience of knowing something 100% to be true. So there's the ignorant knowing where you know something, but you don't take action on it, so you don't actually know it. Then there's that true embodied knowing where you're no longer living in that ignorant state. You're fully aware, you're conscious, you've taken action, you're doing the thing, right? You had the experience, right? Like you can know of God, or you've had the experience of God, whether big or small experience, but you've actually felt it. There's these different types of knowing. We're moving into a state of consciousness that is expanded in scale. There's one, I mean, that has to be the case. So many people are interested in 3I Atlas. Why are so many people interested in this? It's not just because some people have been talking about an alien angle, or because of just, standard astronomy. Hey, we found a new comet, right? There's something more to it. It's like the human desire to expand beyond our current understanding and limitations, and to expand our consciousness to the cosmic level. This is what I've been detecting and feeling experientially. So I personally, this is what I believe 100% and know to be true. But until you've experienced something, you don't, maybe you don't believe it, you don't know it, whatever, right? And so everyone has their own experience, and everything comes at the right time. Divine timing for everything. So why did this come in right now, right? What's the divine reason for this? Because it's exactly along the ecliptic plane, only 5 degrees off. That's the same inclination actually as our moon to the Earth. And it's clearly had a ton of interactions with the sun, with all that solar activity that I showed you. Now it's spewing out jets. It has been very bizarre the whole time. We had Borisov pop up right in between and then disintegrate or disappear. So there's just so many oddities with this that I think it's really speaking to broadening our horizons and awakening us to the interstellar situation and consciousness that we live in. Like, we're not simply just here on this planet and only mundane things matter. Like, there's this vast realm and world and reality that we live in, much beyond our current understanding or experience. And this is probably just the first little creak open of the door. I wouldn't be surprised if we get more interstellar objects to be detected in the next few months or years. Honestly, we had a Oumuamua 2017, 2I Borisov in 2019. Then we had 3I Atlas, 3I Atlas, Atlas the book, the roadmap, right? The whole plan in 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of them come in by the end of 2030. Especially, and one reason why is just because we're going to be detecting them more easily with our new high-tech astronomical observatories that do all sky maps and more. Whereas, how many times have we had these interstellar objects fly around in our solar system that were completely undetected? Certainly there have been a lot before 2017. And how many are there right now? We first picked up 3I Atlas back in July. It was July 1st specifically. Let's go to that date to see where it was. Okay, this is an illustrative point. We first detected 3I Atlas back here at the orbit of Jupiter, and then we were able to pick it up going back to, I believe, May, maybe even April, with some earlier all-sky maps. So that's not even at the orbit of Saturn. That's 10 astronomical units. This thing was in our solar system already, and we didn't know it, going back to even like 2020. So this is 2023, and it's outside the orbit of Pluto at that moment in time. Neptune's at 30 astronomical units. We think of that typically as the edge of our outer solar system, but it's really the heliosphere. The heliosphere goes out to like 100 astronomical units. So if Neptune's at 30, let's go back to 2020, and we see that, well, it's not even double Neptune, or maybe it's just about double Neptune right there. That's about 60 AU. So it was already well within our heliosphere, the energy field created by our sun, and this is the solar minimum heliosphere in 2020 back then. And so we didn't detect it until it got to Jupiter. What other, perhaps, interstellar objects are flying around, but they're cutting through maybe just by Neptune, right? This is a hyperbolic trajectory. It's getting in close and only having a slight deviation away from its orbit because it's passing so close to our sun, which is a gravitational heavyweight. It's the fastest ever object detected moving through space for us as a comet, right? Comet, whatever you want to call it. We've never seen a comet move this fast before. So what if there was something coming in like this? It would only have a very slight deviation. And if we're not like really examining very closely these orbits and areas, and it's going to be very dim, right? There's probably a whole bunch of them right now. So how many of these things are in our area? That's a very good question. It's a very good question. And not all of them have to come in along the ecliptic plane. Look at Borisov here. You know, supposedly it came up like this and then disintegrated. So there's probably already like dozens of others within just our heliosphere going out to 100 AU that we have no idea are there. So this is expanding much beyond this because we finally now have like detected 3 of them. And we're seeing what it's doing with people's interest and society. I mean, we even have in the United States a congresswoman who, like, I think it was a congresswoman who submitted an official letter to NASA asking them to release the high-rise imagery. It's like, what? Or Kim Kardashian was like, what's 3I Atlas? So yeah, maybe they're just like hoping to get attention somewhere or whatever. I don't know. But I think it's a genuine interest by people. And just because someone's famous or not, or they're a politician or not, doesn't mean that they're not human and can't have an interest in these things. We're all connected together by this. We all are interested in this. It's really representative of this expansion of our awareness of our place in the universe and the fact that we're all connected together. And we only are on one tiny planet, right? All of humanity, as far as we know. Maybe some people have been taken off world. Maybe they're like hanging out in the Pleiades or something. I don't know. I haven't been off planet as far as I know. But as far as we know, there's only one Earth right here, and that's where we all are. So that's like one tiny little dust speck in the universe. It's so much more vast than that. And I think this is our awakening to that. And we're just little babies finally becoming toddlers, being able to speak and look out and interact with people and more in this celestial environment. So that is my video for you today. 3I Atlas is now spewing out jets of gas, dust, and plasma, as we see here with this imagery from Mike Yeager. Links to this and some research in the video description. We see that Borisov has effectively disappeared. It seems to have disintegrated pretty quickly after it was picked up. We'll have to wait on some more amateur astronomers to try to find Borisov because this is a limited sample, but appears to have just disappeared when it was directly in between 3I Atlas and Earth. Very bizarre stuff happening right now. I will keep you up to date every step of the way. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. I did say I was going to do a question and answer, so let's actually get into that really quick. And here is super thanks from Sam. Planet X is acting on it still, which is why the behavior continues despite greater distance from the sun. Something at 4 o'clock position from the sun. Yeah, Planet X is a hypothetical planet because there are some oddities to the gravitational orbits and such with like Uranus and Neptune and the trans-Newtonian objects. And so people are looking for this Planet X and they haven't found it. And they're doing these with these new telescope and astronomical centers and more. We're hoping to find this planet X, but that's one idea for what's creating these gravitational abnormalities in the outer solar system. One of the ideas that a lot of people don't talk about is that there's actually a ultra-wide binary star companion to our sun, and it never gets super close in, but if, like a red dwarf, for example, if it does get close enough in, it could also cause those TNO orbits to all skew in one direction. And that's what the Vedics believe. They've been talking about that for thousands of years. Indian philosophers, that there's an ultra-wide binary companion to our sun that gets in close, and they're in these elliptical orbits around each other, and that causes some chaos in the solar system when they get close, because those gravitational interactions, and then would disturb the cometary reservoir of the Oort cloud or whatever is containing all these comets that fly in, disturbs that, flings them in, perhaps more. So if it's not Planet X, it could be that, and maybe Planet X would be interacting with it if there is a Planet X, but how far out is it, how big is it, we don't know. But as it gets further out, maybe it actually gets close to Planet X if it continues on. Again, these are all interesting things. I talk about Planet X and everything a lot more in my Planetary Resonances eCourse. It's a complete 15-hour eCourse on the planets or synodic cycles, also the precession to equinoxes, great year, astronomical ages, asteroids, TNOs, and more. So if you want to get the download, the astronomical, astrological, and archetypal download on all of this, and I recommend that you sign up for that course. I'll put a link to that in the video description after the live stream is over. You can go to wildfreeorganic.com/planetary-resonances to check that out. We have a question here from Uper, which is, could Borisov have come from 3I Atlas also? Could Borisov still be there but have gone dark? I mean, I can't say that that can't be the case. Again, the calculated orbital trajectory does not indicate that based off of the measurements. They indicate that, well, we're in 2020 right here. Let's go up to today. It does not indicate that based off of the calculated orbital trajectory. They calculated going like this, and then it's basically perpendicular to 3I Atlas. But in terms of when we picked it up, which I think was the 3rd of November. So let's go here to the 3rd of November, okay? From when we picked it up and to where we saw it basically disappear, 3rd of November to here, right? It's only been in between 3I Atlas and Earth. So I don't know. I can't answer your question. You can go with the mainstream interpretation, but that's all just interpretation based off of the observations that we had. We don't actually have any observations of it at this moment in time of it being down there. And we're not going to have any of it if it actually disintegrated of it being over there. We only have observations of it being right there. So yeah, very interesting. And a super thanks from Tally. Thank you so much. Thanks for keeping us in the know. Are you confident that we are getting factual data because these additional objects are getting crazy? I'm loving it though. Yeah, I mean, I look into all the different conspiracies. I think that's important. I don't necessarily believe all of them. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They just believe every single conspiracy that they read because they have a complete distrust and hatred of the government or something like that, which, whatever, right? I'm not getting into that. But I look into all the different angles and everything. In terms of there being some grand conspiracy, in terms of like this data all being fabricated, I don't believe that. There's too many people working for these organizations for that simply to be the case. Because most people are good, honest people. But that doesn't mean that there's not some weird stuff that's happened with some of these organizations and groups. So there's certainly some oddities out there, but I think, especially with these amateur astronomers, I think when we look at data presented just from people like, hey, I'm here in Slovakia, hey, I'm here in New Mexico, I'm shooting this from Germany, right? They're posting it to Twitter or whatever. I think that we can, in general, be fairly confident that's just actual good data because these are, in general, good, honest people just interested in what's happening, posting that out to the public, sharing their information and more. So that's my thoughts on that. But you have to be skeptical, you have to be discerning, right? That's all good things to do. We've been having some geomagnetic storming. I was going to do a video on that last night, but I was actually pretty tired, so I decided not to. But we do have some more solar storm impacts coming in. So be ready for that. And we just had the full moon, so now we're in the waning gibbous phase. So the energy of the moon is starting to go down a bit. But certainly a lot of stuff happening here, especially with 3i Atlas. So thank you so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well, and I'll see you all in the next video.